Hello everyone. Breaking news: Iran has unveiled what many outlets are calling a monster missile, and Israel has responded by putting its defense forces and civilians on high alert. Tonight we're unpacking what this weapon is, why it matters, what happened on the ground, and what the wider strategic consequences could be for the region and the world. Stay tuned. This is a fast-moving story with implications that could reshape deterrence in the Middle East. A single weapon can change a battlefield. Iran's new missile, described in reporting as a monster because of its range, payload options and destructive potential, has forced Israel to scramble air defenses and tighten security measures. The rhetoric and maneuvers from both sides are escalating tensions after a series of strikes and counterstrikes in mid-2025 that raised fears of a wider regional war. Over the last several weeks, Iran publicly unveiled a heavy ballistic missile system and then, according to multiple accounts, moved quickly from parody ground demonstrations to operational use or credible threats of use in combat operations. Israeli authorities reacted by raising alert levels across military units and in some cases ordering temporary pauses in leave for combat troops and civil preparedness measures. Journalists and photographers captured missile launches and their trajectories from across the eastern Mediterranean, compelling images that underscore the immediacy of the threat environment. Analysts in some media outlets call it a monster for three reasons. 1. Its size and warhead capacity are reportedly larger than Iran's more common mid-range missiles. 2. It appears designed to carry specialized warheads, including submunition or bunker-busting types, that complicate interception. And 3. It reportedly extends Iran's ability to threaten deep into Israeli population centers and critical infrastructure. Those three features would change the calculus for defenders, because more destructive warheads and longer ranges mean attackers can choose from a broader menu of targets and delivery profiles. Israel's defense posture shifted quickly. The military increased the readiness of air defenses, activated additional missile defense batteries, and, according to open reporting, imposed restrictions on public gatherings and non-essential business in some areas when the perceived threat rose. Emergency services and hospitals prepared for mass casualty response in the event of strikes. The Israeli government framed these moves as necessary protective measures amid a volatile exchange of strikes and counterstrikes. Accurate casualty counts and damage assessments are always difficult in rapidly evolving conflicts. Multiple outlets reported missiles fired in June 2025 that wounded scores and struck urban areas, reports that fed the urgency behind defensive measures. Independent verification is complicated by restricted access to strike zones and by the fog of war, but the visual record and local reporting indicate that the missile threat is tangible, not theoretical. Publicly available technical details remain limited and are often shaped by state media, which has an interest in exaggeration or restraint depending on objectives. Still, open-source analysts suggest the missile family Iran highlighted combines several capabilities that matter. Extended range capable of reaching major Israeli cities from launch points inside Iran or proximate territories. Increased payload capacity allowing for larger high-explosive warheads, submunitions, or specialized penetrators. Potential improvements in guidance and counter-defense features, including lower altitude trajectories or maneuvers that complicate interception. It's important to stress uncertainty. Without clear telemetry, independent test data, or transparent inspections, estimates of range, accuracy and warhead type are necessarily provisional. That uncertainty itself complicates policy decisions. Defenders must plan for worst reasonable scenarios, not just best-case ones. A weapon like this is not only military hardware, it's political theater. Several strategic factors explain Iran's timing: to signal deterrence after strikes against its nuclear and military infrastructure, to reassure regional proxies and partners that Iran retains a credible retaliatory capability, and to strengthen its bargaining position in any diplomatic talks. Conversely, for Israel, The missile's emergence sharpens concerns about existential threats and pressures leaders to demonstrate deterrence and civil protection. Both sides therefore face strong incentives to posture aggressively, a dynamic that risks miscalculation. Israel is widely recognized as having among the world's most advanced layered missile defense systems. But the arrival of heavier or more sophisticated ballistic threats strains any defense architecture. Intercepting large, fast ballistic missiles that release submunitions or use complex re-entry profiles is harder and more resource-intensive than stopping short-range rockets. Analysts argue that while Israel's defenses can blunt many attacks, no system is perfect, and a well-placed or unexpectedly configured warhead can still cause heavy damage and political shock. That vulnerability helps explain the high alert posture and urgency around civil precautions. A critical danger in any Iran-Israel exchange is spillover. Iran's missile capacity can reach not only Israel but also U.S. bases and allied facilities across the region. Proxy actors like Hezbollah in Lebanon or Houthi forces in Yemen can extend the conflict's geography by launching their own raids or by acting as force multipliers. The result is a multi-front risk that can rapidly involve multiple states and non-state actors, making containment much harder. International actors, notably the United States and European powers, have been vocal about preventing an all-out regional conflagration. But diplomatic levers are blunt when kinetic strikes are ongoing. Both Iran and Jerusalem are addressing domestic audiences as much as foreign ones. Iran's leadership can portray the missile as proof of resilience and technological progress, shoring up regime legitimacy at home. Israeli leaders, meanwhile, must show they are doing everything to protect citizens. Visible high alert measures reassure publics and deter political fallout. This cyclical signaling, each side demonstrating resolve, can unintentionally normalize escalatory steps, increasing the risk that a tactical incident snowballs into a broader conflict. Looking ahead, there are three major scenarios to watch. 1. De-escalation via diplomacy. International mediators or back channels could broker a temporary pause, reducing the immediate risk of wider war. This requires credible assurances and verification, a difficult task while kinetic operations continue. 2. Limited exchanges with controlled escalation. Both sides may continue tit-for-tat strikes confined to military targets, with careful thresholds to avoid full mobilization. This is unstable and prone to mistakes. 3. Broader regional war. If a major strike kills significant numbers of civilians or if a third party is drawn in, escalation could become exponential, involving multiple states and proxy forces. This is the scenario everyone wants to avoid because of its catastrophic human and economic costs. Beyond the immediate region, a conflict involving Iran and Israel affects